A shocking viral video exposes Jungkook and Lisa's secret reunion date, sparking chaos, heartbreak, and a storm of hidden truths that rain poured endlessly over the narrow streets of Itaewon, each drop reflecting flashes of neon signs and hurried footsteps. "Run, Lisa!" Jungkook's voice cut through the downpour, low but urgent. Cameras clicked into shadows, too many to count. She turned, breathless, her eyes wide beneath the hood of her beige coat. For a brief second, their hands touched. Then a blinding flash froze them both in place. The click that would soon ignite a wildfire across the internet. Just an hour earlier, they had slipped unnoticed into a small ramen shop on the outskirts of Seoul. The air inside was heavy with the scent of miso and chili oil, and the radio hummed softly in the background. Jungkook had chosen the place for its anonymity, but even there, fate had found them. He sat quietly across from Lisa, his hoodie drawn low, fingers nervously drumming the table. "It's been 2 years," he murmured. She smiled faintly, though the sadness in her eyes told stories words could not. "And yet it feels like yesterday," she replied, her voice breaking the silence that had lived between them. Their reunion wasn't supposed to happen. The agencies had made that clear. After their first scandal, the quiet deal was simple: stay away, focus on work, and never cross paths again. But love, or maybe the ghost of it, had its own will. Lisa had been in Seoul only for a week, a secret trip meant to visit family. Jungkook had found out by accident, an old message thread left open, a familiar name in a shared group chat. And now here they were, two shadows in the night, trying to rewrite what the world refused to let them have. Outside, the storm raged harder. Through the fogged window, a silhouette lingered too long, a man pretending to check his phone. Lisa noticed first, her body tensed, the chopsticks trembling slightly in her hand. Jungkook followed her gaze, and a cold dread settled in his chest. "We should go," he said quietly. She nodded, already pulling her mask higher. The bell above the door chimed softly as they stepped into the rain, unaware that a lens was already following them. They hurried through the narrow alley, splashing through puddles that mirrored fractured colors. The world felt too close, every sound amplified: the rustle of umbrellas, the hum of traffic, the faint shudder of a camera. Lisa stumbled slightly, Jungkook catching her by the wrist. For a heartbeat, time stood still, the old warmth between them flickering to life. "You still hold on the same way," she whispered. His breath hitched. "And you still run into trouble the same way," he replied, half a smile ghosting across his lips. By the time they reached the corner, it was too late. A van slowed beside them. A voice shouted something indistinct, and flashes burst from every angle. The storm of light swallowed them whole. Jungkook instinctively stepped in front of her, shielding her face with his arm, but the damage was already done. The images, his hand on hers, the unmistakable closeness, her eyes meeting his, would flood the internet within the hour. Back at her apartment, the world was already burning. Notifications lit up both their phones like firecrackers. Fans, agencies, journalists. Lisa sat on the couch, drenched and shaking, scrolling through a storm of headlines. Caught again, Lisa and Jungkook's secret date. The words felt like a cruel déjà vu. Jungkook paced near the window, his reflection fractured in the glass. "They'll call it a scandal again," he said bitterly. Lisa looked up at him, her voice soft but steady. "It was never a scandal. It was just us." For a long moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the rain tapping against the glass. Jungkook turned away, eyes dark with something between guilt and longing. "Do you regret it?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to him, placing a hand on his chest where his heartbeat raced beneath soaked fabric. "No," she whispered, "but I'm afraid." The fear wasn't for herself. It was for what came next, the storm that would follow, the millions of eyes that would judge, the contracts and headlines and broken promises. Outside, lightning tore through the night, illuminating the two of them in a fleeting flash of honesty. For the first time in years, they didn't hide, and as dawn crept across the skyline of Seoul, the first viral video hit the internet, A grainy clip of two silhouettes running hand in hand through the rain, faces half hidden, hearts fully exposed. The world would see it as scandal. But for them, it was simply a moment of truth that refused to stay buried. After the viral leak of their reunion, Jungkook and Lisa faced betrayal, agency pressure, and a secret that could end both their careers. The morning after felt unreal, too bright, too loud, too cruel. Jungkook sat on the edge of his bed, phone buzzing endlessly beside him. The room was silent except for the faint hum of Seoul traffic outside. He hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, his thoughts racing like thunder. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flash of cameras, Lisa's frightened face, and the rain, always the rain, that he finally picked up the phone. Dozens of messages from his manager, his agency, even his bandmates. The first one read, "We need to talk. Now." Lisa, meanwhile, was alone in her apartment, curled up on the couch, the curtains drawn. She hadn't checked her social media, but the sound of chaos had already seeped in through every crack. Notifications, missed calls, the sound of reporters shouting outside the building. The air smelled faintly of coffee and fear. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest, trying to quiet her heartbeat. Then, her phone rang. She stared at the screen. "Jungkook, don't say anything," he said the moment she answered, his voice hoarse. "They're listening. The agencies, both of them, are in crisis mode. They're calling it an unfortunate coincidence." Lisa exhaled shakily, a bitter laugh escaping her. "A coincidence? We were holding hands, Jungkook." "I know," he whispered. "And they're trying to bury it again." A knock interrupted their call, sharp, impatient. Lisa froze. "Lisa SSI, open up. It's YG Management." The voice on the other side was calm but cold, the kind that demanded obedience. She ended the call, took one last breath, and opened the door. Her manager, Minji, stepped inside without waiting for permission. Her expression was unreadable, but her tone was ice. "We warned you before, Lisa. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Lisa's lips trembled, but her voice stayed firm. "I met a friend. Don't play dumb. That friend could cost you everything. Endorsements, partnerships, your next solo album." Minji's eyes softened for a brief second. "You should disappear for a while. Leave the country. Let die down. Disappear." The word echoed in her chest like a wound reopening. She'd done that before. Run away, erased herself from the story. She thought she'd made peace with that choice, but seeing Jungkook again had cracked something open inside her. Meanwhile, across town, Jungkook sat in a glass conference room at HYB headquarters. The tension was suffocating. His manager, his PR head, and two executives stared at him from across the table. "This is your second scandal with her," the PR head said, her voice clipped. "We cannot afford another hit to the group's image." "I wasn't doing anything wrong," Jungkook muttered, his jaw tightening. "Public perception doesn't care about right or wrong." One of the executives replied sharply. "They see what they want to see. A betrayal of your promise to fans, a distraction from your service, your career, your duty." "Duty," Jungkook repeated quietly, the word tasting like ash. After the meeting, he walked out into the cold corridor, feeling more like a ghost than a man. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright against the dull ache behind his eyes. He pulled his hood up, slipped out the side exit, and disappeared into the crowd outside. By afternoon, the internet had already split in two. Some fans defended them. "They're human. Let them live," while others cried betrayal. Conspiracy theories bloomed. Secret rendezvous, hidden messages and lyrics, speculation that their agencies had been covering things up for years. The clip of their rain-soaked escape had been replayed millions of times, each pixel dissected, each frame analyzed. Lisa sat in silence as her manager's voice echoed through the apartment, fielding calls from PR teams, lawyers, and executives. She wanted to scream, to explain, to say it was just one night, one stolen evening of peace, but words felt useless now. The world didn't want explanations. It wanted a story. And in that story, she was the villain again. That night, as Seoul glittered in restless neon, Jungkook showed up at her apartment. She opened the door to find him standing there, hoodie soaked, eyes dark, lips pressed into a tight line. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I couldn't stay away. The room seemed to hold its breath. They didn't speak for a long moment, just stood there, two souls caught between defiance and fear. Finally, Lisa looked away. They'll destroy us. Jungkook. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then let them try. She looked up, startled by the intensity in his eyes. For the first time since the video leaked, he wasn't scared. There was a fire in him again, the same one she'd fallen for before the world had taught them to hide. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. The storm wasn't over, not even close. But for a brief, fragile moment, the world shrank to the space between them. The silence, the heartbeat, the truth neither of them could deny anymore. And when Jungkook finally reached out, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face, she didn't pull away. Not this time. The price of silence. Lisa and Jungkook fight to protect their secret love as agencies tighten control. Betrayal lurks in their circle, and truth threatens to destroy them both. The city was quiet at dawn, too quiet for Seoul. A pale fog rolled between the buildings, wrapping the streets in ghostly silence. Inside Lisa's apartment, the air was thick with the smell of rain and tension. Jungkook sat by the window, his hoodie still damp from the night before, staring blankly at the skyline. The silence between them wasn't peaceful. It was charged, electric, full of things neither dared to say aloud. Lisa poured coffee into 2 mugs. Her hands trembled slightly, and the sound of porcelain meeting the table seemed to echo in the small room. We can't keep doing this, she said finally. Her voice was soft, but it carried a quiet exhaustion. Jungkook didn't look at her. You mean seeing each other? I mean hiding. She took a breath, eyes fixed on the dark liquid swirling in her cup. Running. Pretending like every time we meet, it's not costing us something. He turned toward her, his gaze steady. Then let's stop pretending. Her heart caught for a moment, the words hitting deeper than she expected. You don't understand, she whispered. They own everything. Our image, our words, even our silence. Jungkook's expression hardened. Then maybe it's time we take something back. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed sharply on the table. The screen flashed with the name Namjoon. He hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was calm, but laced with worry. Where are you? Namjoon asked quietly. Just out. Don't lie to me, Jungkook. HYB's PR department is in meltdown. They're preparing a statement denying everything. If you're with her right now, you need to leave before they find out where you are. Jungkook's jaw tightened. I'm not running anymore. Then be ready, Namjoon said after a pause. Because the moment you stop running, they'll start chasing. The call ended. The silence returned, heavier than before. Hours later, a black car pulled up outside Lisa's building. 2 men in suits stepped out, one from YG, one from HYB. They spoke briefly to the security guard, then disappeared inside. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text from her manager. They're coming up. Don't resist. She glanced at Jungkook. It's them. He stood immediately, his muscles tensing. I'll handle it. No, she said quickly, grabbing his wrist. If they find you here, it'll be over for both of us. Too late. 3 sharp knocks echoed through the apartment. Lisa opened the door to face Minji, her manager, and an HYB representative she didn't recognize, a tall man with an expression like carved ice. Good morning, Lisa Sasai, he said politely. We need to have a private conversation. His eyes flicked past her shoulder and found Jungkook standing there. For a moment, no one spoke. The tension was suffocating. So, it's true, the man said quietly. You're together again. Get out, Jungkook snapped, stepping forward. The man didn't flinch. You think you're protecting her, but you're not. You're dragging her down with you. Both your agencies have agreed on a containment plan. You'll each release a statement, separately. You'll say it was a misunderstanding, a coincidence, and that you haven't spoken in years. Lisa's lips parted in disbelief. You're asking us to lie. I'm asking you to survive. The words hung in the air, cold and final. When they left, Lisa sat on the edge of her bed, tears threatening to spill. Jungkook knelt in front of her, his voice rough. Lisa, listen to me. We don't have to do this. We don't have to lie. She met his eyes, her voice trembling. If I don't, they'll end my contract. They'll blacklist me, Jungkook. I worked my whole life for this. His throat tightened. He wanted to tell her he'd give it all up. That fame, music, everything meant nothing compared to her. But the words felt selfish, childish. Because he knew she'd never forgive herself if he did. Later that evening, Lisa recorded her statement. Under the soft light of a studio camera, she smiled faintly and said the words that burned her tongue. It was just a coincidence. Jungkook and I happen to be at the same place. We're good friends, but nothing more. Jungkook watched from a distance, hidden behind a monitor. Every syllable felt like a knife. When the recording ended, Lisa walked out without saying a word. She didn't look at him as she passed, but he caught the shimmer of tears at the corner of her eye. That night, the video went live. It spread fast, millions of views in hours, fans dissecting every blink, every breath. Some believed her, others didn't. But the internet had already moved on to the next scandal, the next storm. And in the quiet that followed, Jungkook sat alone in his studio, staring at the reflection of city lights on his glass desk. His phone buzzed again, an anonymous message this time. You think it's over? Someone sold you out. Check who took that video. He froze, the words burning in his mind. Someone had followed them. Someone close. And suddenly, the night in the rain wasn't just a coincidence anymore. It was a setup. The betrayal within as Jungkook uncovers a hidden betrayal behind the viral leak. Trust shatters and danger deepens, forcing him and Lisa into a world of secrets and deception. The message replayed in Jungkook's mind like a haunting melody. Someone sold you out. The words glowed on his phone screen, their weight sinking deeper with every second. He sat frozen in his dimly lit studio, surrounded by half-written lyrics and unfinished beats, fragments of himself that now felt meaningless. The air was still, heavy with the smell of burnt coffee and anxiety. He checked the message again. No sender ID. No trace, just the silent accusation staring back at him. When he finally gathered the courage to call Lisa, it was past midnight. The city outside his window pulsed with distant life. Neon lights, muffled laughter, the hum of late traffic. But in that room, the world felt very small. Lisa, he said quietly when she answered. Her voice was tired, strained. Jungkook, it's late. I got a message, he said. It said someone sold us out. That night, it wasn't random. There was silence on the other end. Then a slow exhale. What do you mean, sold us out? I mean someone we know leaked it. Someone who knew where we'd be. He could almost hear her heartbeat through the phone. No one knew, she whispered. I didn't tell anyone. Neither did I, he said. Then after a pause, he stopped. Except who? Except Taeyong, Jungkook admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. He saw the message thread on my phone that night. I told him it was nothing, just an old friend. He didn't say anything after that, but Lisa's tone sharpened. You think Taeyong would betray you? I don't want to think that, Jungkook said, rubbing his temple. But I can't ignore it, either. HYB knew about us too fast. Someone told them exactly where to look. Lisa sank in her chair, her fingers gripping the armrest. Her mind flashed through her own circle. Her manager, her stylists, even her assistant. The memory hit her like a punch. Minji's strange expression that night, the way she'd said, don't resist. Maybe it wasn't him, Lisa said. Maybe it was someone on my side. She stood and walked to the window. Below, reporters still lingered in the street, cameras ready like vultures. My manager, she showed up that morning, hours before anyone else knew. She said YG had already been alerted. But how? Their silence was an answer in itself. The next morning, Jungkook drove to the company under the pretense of recording. The receptionist smiled stiffly. The air felt different now, colder. He passed through the corridors like a ghost, the echoes of footsteps and whispers following him. When he reached the lounge, Taeyong was there, leaning back on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Hey, Jungkook said, voice neutral. Taeyong looked up, surprised. You look like hell. Rough night. Jungkook sat opposite him, studying his face for signs, guilt, hesitation, anything. Listen, I need to ask you something. Taeyong set his phone down. What's wrong? That night, I texted Lisa. You saw the chat. Yes, so? Did you tell anyone? The question hung in the air, heavy as stone. For a moment, Taeyong said nothing, just blinked slowly, as if buying time. Then, quietly, no, I didn't. But something in his voice trembled, just barely. Jungkook's stomach turned. He didn't push further, just nodded. Okay. He stood to leave, but before he did, Taeyong said softly, be careful, Jungkook. Not everyone's on your side right now, especially upstairs. The words froze in mid-step. What do you mean? Taeyong looked at him for a long moment, eyes dark with something between pity and regret. Just watch your back. That evening, Lisa received a message from her assistant, a forwarded email thread between Minji and someone at HYB, dated 2 days before the leak. It contained surveillance photos, timestamps, even a meeting summary titled Image Control Strategy. Her hand shook as she scrolled. Every line confirmed what she feared. This wasn't an accident. It had been planned. They'd been set up. She called Jungkook immediately. Her voice trembled. They knew. They were working together, HYB and YG. They leaked it to control us, to keep us quiet. Jungkook went still. His pulse thudded in his ears. You're sure? I have proof. A car horn blared outside his window, snapping him back to the moment. Lisa, listen to me, he said, his tone low and urgent. Don't stay there. Pack your things and go somewhere safe. They'll realize what you found. Where would I go? Anywhere but home. But before she could answer, a loud knock echoed through her apartment. Not polite, demanding. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Jungkook, someone's here. He froze. Don't open it. The knocking turned into pounding. Through the door came a cold, familiar voice. Lisa says, it's Minji. We need to talk. Lisa's breath caught. She set the phone down slowly, staring at the door. The shadow beneath it shifted. Waiting, she knew then that the betrayal wasn't just about the video. It was about control, about silence. And the people she trusted most were the ones tightening the noose. Between lies and love cornered by betrayal and hunted by their own agencies, Jungkook and Lisa must choose between protecting their love or losing everything they've built. The pounding at the door grew louder. Minji's voice called again, deceptively calm. Please open up. We just need to clarify some things. Lisa's pulse thrashed in her ears. The air felt thick, suffocating. She glanced at the window, too high to escape. The only sound was her heartbeat and Jungkook's muffled voice still crackling through the phone. Don't let her in, he said. I'm on my way. But Minji's voice turned sharp. If you don't open this door, the company will take that as non-cooperation. Don't make things worse than they already are. Lisa's hand hovered over the knob. The weight of her decision pressed down. Obedience meant safety, at least for now. Resistance meant war. She opened the door halfway. Minji stepped in, her expression perfectly composed, her umbrella dripping rain onto the carpet. You look tired, she said softly, her eyes scanning the room. We need to talk about that email you saw. Lisa's fingers tightened around the edge of the door. You mean the one that proves you set us up? Minji sighed, almost pitying. You shouldn't have seen that. It wasn't personal. It was business. You think you're the first artist they've had to protect from themselves. Protect. Lisa spat the word. You destroyed my reputation. You destroyed your own. Minji snapped, her patience cracking. You knew what this industry demands. Control, perfection, silence. You chose to love someone who doesn't belong to our world anymore. Lisa's throat burned. He was my world before any of this. Minji's eyes softened, briefly revealing something almost human beneath the professionalism. And that's why you're dangerous, Lisa. Because you still believe love is more powerful than the system that feeds you. Before Lisa could respond, a vibration buzzed from Minji's phone. She glanced at it, her face tightening. He's coming here, she murmured. Of course he is. She looked up, her tone shifting from frustration to cold calculation. Then maybe we can end this now. Lisa's blood ran cold across the city. Jungkook was already racing through the rain, his cap pulled low, his heart hammering. He didn't even feel the storm soaking through his hoodie. His car weaved through traffic, headlights slicing the wet darkness that he kept calling. No answer. Each ring made the fear crawl higher in his chest. By the time he reached her building, two black vans were parked outside, their engines idling. Men in suits stood near the entrance, scanning the street. That he knew this look. Damage control. Corporate cleanup. That he parked down the block and ran out inside the apartment. Minji stood by the window, talking in her phone. Yes, he's here already. Make sure the story goes live in 10 minutes. We'll control the narrative before he gets a chance to speak. Lisa's stomach twisted. What story? Minji turned slowly. The one where you're desperate. Where you chased him. Where he rejected you. You'll be painted as unstable, heartbroken, a tragic victim of your own obsession. Sympathy sells better than scandal. Lisa's face went pale. You can't do that. Minji smiled faintly. We already did. Then came the crash. A door slammed open from the hallway. Footsteps. The unmistakable sound of Jungkook's voice shouting her name. Lisa ran to the doorway, tears streaking down her face. Jungkook. He appeared in the hall, chest heaving, eyes wild with panic. Are you okay? Before she could answer, Minji stepped between them. Mr. John, this is a restricted situation. You are violating multiple agency protocols. Protocols? Jungkook snapped, his voice breaking with fury. You invaded her life, set us up, and destroyed her reputation. She did that herself, Minji replied coldly. Jungkook took a step closer, his tone dangerously low. If you post that story, I swear I'll burn every lie you've built. Minji's gaze flickered, just for a moment, betraying a hint of fear. But she quickly masked it with a tight smile. You wouldn't risk your career for her. Jungkook didn't hesitate. I already have. For a second, the world stopped. The rain outside beat harder against the windows. Lisa looked at him, disbelief and heartbreak tangled in her expression. Minji stepped back. You're making a mistake, both of you. Once the story goes out, you'll be done. Then let it go out, Lisa said, her voice trembling but sure. We'll tell the truth ourselves. Minji's mask cracked thin for the first time. Her eyes narrowed. You think the truth matters? People don't want truth. They want spectacle. Jungkook took Lisa's hand, pulling her close. Then we'll give them both. He pulled out his phone, opened Instagram Live, and hit go live. Within seconds, millions of followers flooded the feed. The image was raw. Lisa in tears, Jungkook standing beside her, his hand firm around hers. The comment section exploded instantly. Thousands of hearts and question marks flying across the screen. That Jungkook's voice cut through the noise. You've seen stories about us. Lies written to sell shame and control our lives. We're done hiding. He looked into the camera, eyes blazing. I love her. That's the truth. The words hung in the air, breaking the spell of silence that had chained them for years. Lisa looked at him, stunned. For a moment, there was nothing else. No fans, no cameras, no managers, just the sound of rain and two hearts choosing to defy the world together. Minji stood frozen, the reflection of the live feed glowing on her face. She knew it was too late. The damage was done, but not the way she had planned. Outside, thunder roared across the city like applause from the heavens. And as the screen filled with millions of hearts, the world that tried to silence them finally heard the truth. The fall and the fire after going public with their forbidden love, Jungkook and Lisa faced brutal consequences. Media backlash, corporate retaliation, and a betrayal that cuts deepest of all. The live broadcast shattered the internet. Within 10 minutes, every corner of social media burned with their faces. Hashtag Jungkook Lisa Live. Hashtag Forbidden Love. Hashtag Truth Behind the Scandal. Hashtags flooded the trending charts in a storm of obsession and outrage. But while fans screamed, defended, and divided, the silence from our agencies was more dangerous than the noise that Lisa's phone buzzed nonstop. Every call was from YG's crisis team. Every message was a variation of the same sentence. Turn it off. Deny it. Delete it. But it was already too late. The clip of Jungkook saying I love her had been viewed 50 million times before dawn. The words had left his mouth like lightning. And lightning doesn't go back once it's struck. Inside Lisa's apartment, the rain had stopped. The quiet afterward was eerie. Jungkook and Lisa sat side by side on the floor, their backs against the wall. The only light came from the soft glow of the phone, still live streaming, now muted but still rolling, proof of their defiance that Lisa's fingers trembled as she scrolled through the chaos online. "They're tearing us apart," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Some of them are calling me a liar. Others say I trapped you." Jungkook exhaled, running a hand through his soaked hair. "Let them talk. At least they're talking about the truth now." But she shook her head. "You don't understand. They'll come after you next." "They already have," he murmured, staring into the darkness, because even as he spoke, his phone vibrated again. This time, a message from HYBECO. "You've crossed the line. Consider your contract under review." He locked the screen, jaw tight, then looked at Lisa. "We knew this might happen." She turned to him, her eyes shining with tears and defiance. "Knowing doesn't make it easier." The clock ticked in the background, each second louder, heavier. Then, almost as if the universe wanted to remind them of the world outside, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway that Lisa's heart dropped. They wouldn't. Before she could finish, the door burst open. Security. Two men from YG, flanking Minji, who looked as if she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes burned with cold fury. "In the live stream," she ordered. "It's already over," Lisa replied, standing her ground. "Not for you," Minji snapped. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Sponsors are pulling out. The board wants you suspended." "And Jungkook," she turned to him with venom in her tone, "you've just jeopardized your entire group's image." Jungkook stepped closer, unflinching. "I told the truth. If that's a crime, then punish me." Minji gave a bitter laugh. "Oh, they will. But don't think you're a hero. You just gave them exactly what they wanted. A spectacle. You two are entertainment now, not people." Lisa's voice cracked. "Wasn't that what we always were to you?" For the first time, Minji didn't respond. Her expression faltered, just for a heartbeat, before hardening again. "You've made your choice. Don't expect mercy." She turned and left, her heels clicking sharply down the hallway. The door slammed shut, silence again. But this time, it felt heavier, an omen of what was coming up by morning. Both agencies had released statements, the HYB official statement. The recent broadcast by Jungkook was unauthorized and does not represent the views of the company or his group. "We are currently reviewing the situation and its impact." YG Entertainment statement. "Lisa's actions violated confidentiality agreements. We are taking immediate internal measures to protect our artists and brand integrity." The internet went feral. Fans split into factions, those who defended their right to love and those who accused them of betraying their image. Journalists camped outside their buildings. Commentators dissected every word, every glance from the live stream. Lisa couldn't go outside without flashbulbs blinding her. Jungkook's group members were being interrogated by the press, forced to clean up a mess that wasn't theirs. And yet, in the middle of it all, the two of them met again. This time in a small recording studio on the outskirts of the city, far from the skyscrapers of control. Jungkook was already there, sitting in the dark with only the flickering light from the mixer illuminating his face. When Lisa entered, he looked up, his eyes tired but alive. "I don't regret it," he said. "Even if it costs us everything?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Everything's a small price for something real." She sat beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. For a moment, the noise of the world vanished. The chaos, the headlines, the betrayal. There was only them. But peace never lasts long when the world has a price tag for love. Lisa's phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't from YG or the media. It was from an unknown number, the same that had messaged Jungkook before. She opened it hesitantly. "They're not done with you. There's another video, one they haven't released yet." Her blood ran cold. "Jungkook," he looked up. "What is it?" She handed him the phone. His eyes widened as he read the message, the color draining from his face. There was an attachment, a short clip. He pressed play. The video showed them from that night in Itaewon. Not the leaked one everyone had seen, but a longer cut. This time, the camera followed them before they entered the ramen shop. The angle was too steady, too close. Someone hadn't just caught them by accident. Someone had been stalking them. Lisa's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." Jungkook's eyes burned with fury. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "They didn't just leak us. They hunted us." He stood, pacing, adrenaline shaking through him. "We find out who did this, and this time we expose them." Lisa met his gaze, her fear shifting into determination. Together, he nodded. "Always." And outside, beyond the studio walls, the city pulsed with chaos, unaware that the war was about to turn. The shadow behind the camera as Jungkook and Lisa hunt for the truth behind their leak. A hidden betrayal emerges, one that threatens to destroy not just their love, but everything they ever stood for. The sound of rain returned that night, heavier than before, pounding against the glass of the small studio where Jungkook and Lisa sat in silence, watching the grainy video loop again and again. The camera's perspective was wrong. Too still, too close. This wasn't some random fan, Jungkook muttered, rewinding the footage frame by frame. "Look at the reflection on the glass door. Someone was waiting for us." Lisa leaned in, her brows furrowing. "It's the same coat, the same person who followed us in Paris." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That night we thought it was paparazzi." Jungkook froze, his pulse hammered in his throat. "You think this is connected to the first leak?" "I don't think," Lisa said softly. "I know." Her mind flashed back to that night in France. The way the same shadow had lingered behind the hotel lobby's mirrored columns, the flicker of a lens that she dismissed as paranoia. But now, the shape of that shadow was burned into her memory. She swallowed hard. "There's someone behind all this. Someone who doesn't just want to expose us, they want to ruin us." Jungkook clenched his fists. "Then we find out who." They reached out to the only person Jungkook still trusted outside of the industry. An old friend, Jehun, a former tech consultant who now worked in digital forensics, in a dim cafe tucked between Seoul's neon alleys. Jehun met them in a booth far from the window. His laptop glowed faint blue, reflecting in his glasses as he plugged in a drive. "You weren't paranoid," he said after 10 minutes of silence. "Whoever filmed this used high-grade surveillance gear. Something you can't buy off the shelf. And the metadata's been wiped clean." Lisa frowned. "So we can't trace it?" Jehun smirked faintly. "I didn't say that." He tapped a few more keys. "There's a signature in the code. It's a digital watermark." "A watermark?" Jungkook leaned forward. "Yeah, every security agency has one. It's like a fingerprint. And this one," Jehun's tone darkened, "belongs to someone who used to work for YG's internal media protection team." Lisa's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. Those people protect us from leaks." Jehun turned the laptop toward her. On the screen was a name. Minji Park. For a second, the world stopped. "No," Lisa whispered. "She wouldn't." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "She was the one who showed up at your apartment after the live stream. She already knew what to say, how to twist it. Maybe because she planned it." Lisa shook her head, tears welling up. "She was like a sister to me. She protected me for years." "She protected your image," Jungkook said quietly. "Not you." The weight of betrayal settled like a blade between them. The next day, Lisa requested a private meeting at YG headquarters. They tried to stop her at the door, but one look from her, a mixture of exhaustion and fire, was enough to silence the staff. When Minji entered the boardroom, her smile was polite, professional, and cold. "Lisa, I didn't expect to see you here." Lisa stood across from her, fingers trembling but eyes steady. "You leaked the video." Minji didn't flinch. "That's a serious accusation. You followed us. From Paris to Seoul. You knew every place we went. You used me." A pause. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Finally, Minji exhaled slowly and walked toward the window. "You were supposed to be the perfect face of YG. Untouchable, controlled. But then you fell for him. Do you know what that did to the balance we built?" Lisa's voice broke. "You betrayed me because of balance?" Minji turned, her expression hard. "Because love isn't part of the brand. You were going to destroy everything. I couldn't let that happen." Lisa stepped closer, her fury sharp as glass. "So you destroyed me instead." Minji's eyes flickered, just for a second, with guilt. "You think I wanted this? I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen." "You didn't warn me," Lisa hissed. "You recorded me. For the first time, Minji had no answer. The door burst open. Jungkook entered, flanked by Jaehoon holding a laptop. We traced the original file to your personal server. Minji, it's over. Minji's composure cracked just slightly, but she smirked anyway. You think this will save you? The public doesn't care who leaked it. They only care that it happened. Then we'll make them care, Jungkook said, his voice calm but seething as he turned to Lisa. Let's end this on our terms. That night, they went live again. But this time, there were no tears, no confusion, just clarity. Lisa looked into the camera and said, "This isn't about scandal. It's about control. Someone tried to decide who we're allowed to be, but we're done living under someone else's script." Jungkook took her hand, his voice steady. "We were never the problem. The system that treats love like a crime is." Within minutes, the stream exploded across the internet again. But this time, something shifted. The comments weren't just gossip, they were rage. Fans demanded truth, justice, accountability. Hashtag Let the Be trended worldwide. And in her apartment, Minji watched the chaos unfold with shaking hands, her phone lighting up with calls from YG's legal department. Outside, the world was changing. Inside the studio, Jungkook turned to Lisa, eyes soft but alive with something new, something unbreakable. "We started this in fear," he said quietly. "Let's finish it in fire." Lisa smiled through the tears she didn't let fall. Together, the screen faded to black, but in the shadows of Seoul's digital networks, something stirred. An encrypted message sent from a hidden account. They think they've won. But the final act hasn't even begun. The last light before dawn as Jungkook and Lisa face their final battle for truth. Love becomes their rebellion, and the world must finally decide whose story it believes that the city was waking up to chaos. Screens in every cafe, subway, and billboard flickered with the same image. Jungkook and Lisa, hand in hand, staring into the camera, no longer hiding. The world had turned their confession into a revolution. But revolutions, Jungkook knew, always came with a price. He stood by the window of his apartment, the dawn just beginning to bleed orange through the smog. Lisa sat on the couch behind him, scrolling through messages, millions of them. Support, hate, hope, threats. Every word felt like a reflection of the storm they'd unleashed. They're demanding statements from both agencies, Lisa murmured, her voice heavy. "And the news says we'll be banned from performing for a while." Jungkook turned, his expression calm but resolute. "They can ban us from the stage, but they can't silence what we've already said." Lisa looked up at him, her eyes tired but shining. "You really think this will change anything?" He smiled faintly. "It already has." Hours later, the press conference began. Not one controlled by the agencies, but by them in OPR filters. No managers. Just two artists sitting behind a plain wooden table. Microphones lined up before them, cameras flashing like gunfire. Lisa was dressed simply in white, her hijab-style scarf framing her face with quiet defiance. Jungkook wore a black jacket, the silver of his ring catching the light. "Thank you for coming," Lisa began, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We're not here to explain ourselves. We're here to tell the truth." She took a breath. "Someone within YG's management leaked private recordings of us. They try to control the story by making us the villains. But love isn't scandal. It's a human right." The room buzzed, reporters whispering, flashes firing. Jungkook leaned forward, his gaze sharp. "We've both served our fans for years. We've given everything to the industry that raised us. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about music and became about control. We're not property. We're people." A hush fell over the room. Then, one brave journalist asked the question that had lingered for months. "Do you still love each other?" Lisa turned to Jungkook. He met her gaze, and in that quiet exchange, the world seemed to pause. "Yes," he said simply. "I always will." The simplicity of it, no drama, no script, was what broke the world open that night. Something unprecedented happened. Both HYB and YG faced massive public backlash. Petitions surged. Shareholders demanded accountability. Within 48 hours, Minji was officially terminated, and her involvement in the leaks became front-page news. But Jungkook and Lisa didn't celebrate. They disappeared from the city. Far from Seoul, in a small seaside town, they walked hand in hand along the empty shore. The wind was sharp, the sea restless. And yet, for the first time in months, they were free. Lisa kicked at the sand, her laughter quiet but real. I forgot what silence sounds like. Jungkook smiled, pulling her close. It's the sound of peace. She rested her head on his shoulder. Do you think they'll ever forgive us? He was quiet for a long time before answering. Maybe forgiveness isn't what we need. Maybe it's understanding. The waves crashed harder, the tide creeping closer. Lisa slipped her fingers between his. So what now? Now, Jungkook said, looking at the horizon, we live for ourselves. Weeks passed. The media frenzy began to fade, replaced by newer scandals and fresher distractions. But something had changed. Fans began to speak differently. The hashtags evolved from gossip to advocacy. Hashtag let them be became hashtag artists are human, that a movement was born. Not about Jungkook and Lisa alone, but about every artist who had ever been silenced for being human. And in that quiet revolution, their story found meaning beyond the noise. Months later, a video appeared online. A simple one, no agencies, no glossy lighting, just Jungkook and Lisa sitting side by side in a small studio, guitars in hand. Lisa looked into the camera, smiling softly. We wrote this together. It's called The Last Light Before Dawn. Jungkook strummed the first chord. The melody was raw and aching, a blend of heartbreak, defiance, and hope. Their voices intertwined, not as idols, but as people who had survived something beautiful and brutal. We burned, but we're still breathing. We fell, but love kept leading. If the night won't end, then we'll be the light again. When the song ended, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The video went viral again, but this time, it wasn't about scandal. It was about healing. Years later, people would still talk about it. The night Jungkook and Lisa chose truth over fame. The moment they refused to let love be turned into a crime. And somewhere, in that quiet coastal town, two voices would rise again every morning with the sun. Proof that even in a world built on illusions, something real can still survive. Because love, once spoken in truth, never truly disappears. It just finds new ways to echo.